Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are building two new terrariums using material from our old mini moss farm. Now I built two of these moss farms in the past. I have deconstructed one since then and used it in other projects. So here's number two. We're going to pop it open. This is what it looks like after 6 months. It's an old terrarium to me, and I think it looks okay. Our moss is alive. We have some spike rush in here. We have some fungal growth and some duckweed. Yeah, I actually added some duckweed at one point, and it's able to survive. It's kind of interesting. But the moss is alive, and though it might look a little bit wilted, yellowish or brown, this moss is actually growing some kind of little tendrils that allow it to attach to rocks and things. I don't know what you would call them. We do have an underliner here of screen mesh, which separates the soil from the water area. And the aquatic portion looks a lot like a dirty fish tank, so we're going to break it down and build two new terrariums using that material today. For this project, I am using two of these. They're called cake carriers, and I got them from Super Dollar for like $2. And yeah, they're not bad. I wanted to use it like this, but that just didn't work out. So instead, we're going to use the white part as the base. And we're just going to fill that with soil. This isn't a very deep type of tub for our terrarium purposes, so I'm going to avoid the screen mesh and the water and all that. And instead, we're just going to grow it on some moist soil. I think that'll work out fine. That's basically how it grows outdoors, and we captured this moss from my backyard some time ago. We built the original moss boxes, and you guys seem to enjoy that video. I used some like plastic containers, but I didn't like them very much either. So then we rebuilt it as the tinfoil pan terrariums, and that was a stupid idea. That was a bad idea. I'm adding some marble stones here to set up three different portions of the terrarium, and that way I can try out three different ideas for each of these two terrariums. Plus, I'm hoping the moss will eventually attach to these stones and grow all over them. Then we can drop one of these rocks into our jar aquarium, adding marble and moss at the same time. I think that'll be really cool. So now I'm just going to moisten the soil a little bit. I like to have everything nice and moist without being overly wet. Yeah, for our particular moss, it does enjoy aquatic conditions, but it behaves in a strange way, and you'll see what I mean. The moss we work with, it is proven that it will grow underwater in my jar aquariums. You've seen it in one of the Ecosphere updates recently. This is the very same moss. I believe it is Hypnomoss. I am in southern Georgia, and I found it in a wooded area, which is essentially my backyard. We'll take some close-ups. Maybe you can help identify this, or either way, I love this moss. I don't really care too much about Latin names. I just want to help other people if they're interested. And we are setting up our different segments here. I'm kind of just dividing the moss. Again, we're taking half of the tinfoil pan and applying it to this build. We'll use the other half in the second project. Now I'm thinking with these three different segments, I'd like to set up three different like biomes in a terrarium. I think that would be really cool. I have all these different ideas, but I don't have a lot of time. And I'm sure we all have that issue. But I enjoy what we do. I've been thinking a lot about the podcast and starting that back up. But really, I'm kind of doing that through these videos. That's how I feel. In the old podcast videos, I'm like sitting there and I'm just sitting in a shed, and talking to the camera. I would much rather do something like this while we talked about stuff. And we're just going to moisten the soil again. So far, I love these little cake pans, these cake carriers. Not a bad idea. They work pretty well. And it was just a spur of the moment idea when I saw them at the store for really cheap. I don't think many people have to transport cakes, at least not that often. So imagine the only people really buying these containers are people who sell cakes, I would guess. But the terrarium looks great. And yeah, I'm very happy. That's number one. We're going to build two of these. I really like the little marble monument in the middle. Here's what's left of the old moss farm. And one good thing about that underliner is that I can just scoop the moss out of there really easily. I think we'll investigate using that in the future, because if I could get it to attach to the screen mesh, then I could easily plant it in the bottom of a tank. I could just cut sections off. It'd be really cool. That might be a future idea. But we're building number 2 here, our second terrarium. And I realize these aren't like classical terrariums. You might have clicked this video thinking I was going to build something really fancy or whatever. But in reality, I just want to grow moss. And that's because I want this moss for our nano aquarium projects. It seems to grow faster on land, just from what I've observed. So I'm hoping that will translate well to these new terrariums. Now don't be upset. Throughout the video, we will come back in about a month when we're done, and we'll look at them again. So don't think you're going to get a long build video with no payoff at the end. I got you. Really enjoying the projects lately, you guys. I've been trying to tie everything together in different ways, you know. And you'll see some spike rush in here. And I know I've been talking about it a lot lately, but it's one of my favorite plants. It's very durable and it enjoys like every type of project that I try to put it in. And that's a good sign, you know? Sometimes I'm like, oh man, it's boring. I'm sure they're tired of hearing about it. But then again, to me, it's really cool. And I hope that passion like translates well to these videos. Now, as we build these projects, I really got to thinking about future terrariums we could set up, things I could do on the channel. And I'm kind of hit or miss with terrariums. The 2-gallon terrarium we built a while back, that became it was a polydarium actually, but it became like a full water project. I don't know what happened. All of the clay melted in the hurricane heat. 2 weeks, it just melted from heat. But yeah, here's a look at one of our little millipedes. I did catch a couple of them from the Spike Rush nursery. And you guys hopefully watched that video. I hope you did. I don't know too much about the millipedes. I just know they're alive, and I try not to mess with them too much. We'd really love for them to breed. Here's a good look at the moss. Maybe you can help identify it. Any help would be appreciated. Mostly just in case someone else wants to try growing this stuff. It's semi-aquatic, reminds me of Java moss. Here we are 27 days later. Yes, that should be a movie. Here's a look at our cake containers, our cake carrier terrariums, whatever you want to call them. Let's just say terrarium. But here they are. We have 2 of them. They are stackable, which is cool, but not much light gets down below. I've had them set side by side for a while, in indirect light, you could say. And here's a look at number 1. Yeah, so not bad. I'm aware that it looks like there's some yellow or brown in here, and that's mostly from the little tendrils the moss grows when it's trying to attach to something. And I'll show you that in a moment. We have some little plants that are trying to grow in here, and that's fine. So I think it's some kind of wood sorrel, but I'm just guessing. And we still have a little fungus back here, and in the other quadrant as well. So that's not cool, you know. I don't think fungus is a good thing in a terrarium, though I'd imagine that it should be unavoidable. You know, if you have something like this, you probably get some fungal growth. Here's a look at some of the marble, and we do have moss attaching to a few of the rocks. That's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for, and that's really nice. Now that fungus, I know the solution is most likely springtails, and I have another crazy idea as well. We might try to reduce humidity in here and see if that helps. I might have to drill a little hole in the lid, something like that. That might cut down on the fungus as well. But I really need to start another population of springtails. I don't know what happened. I guess we lost them at some point. Their heat tolerance, maybe they couldn't handle the summer heat here in the fish room this year. I don't know. But the plants are alive, and the moss is doing pretty good too. The moss seems to be growing in an upward direction. It thinks that it's underwater, as naturally this moss will creep along the soil and onto stones and stuff. So growing in this fashion, it's probably not going to cover the soil element like I wanted. It's not going to form a dense mat. It's just going to reach up into the air everywhere. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how to stop that, other than reducing humidity. As again, the moss seems to think that it's underwater, if it could think. We do have quite a bit of spike rush in here, and I only planted it in that one quadrant, but it has reached over and expanded, and it's become invasive in my terrarium. But that's okay. Here's a look at the moss once again. You can see that it does have a lot of green on it, and most of that brown are these like hair-like structures that the moss is using to latch onto things. It wants to climb, it wants to expand. It's a really cool little bundle right there. Here's a look at that fungus as well. I don't think it's the worst thing that could occur, but it's definitely not super great in a terrarium. I think we'll handle fungal elimination in another episode on these projects, as this video is already running kind of long and I need to go run off and do a little research and figure out a solution here. I don't really want to put like peroxide or anything in this kind of project. It probably wouldn't hurt, but I don't want to do it. I'd rather fix it with some springtails or some other ideas that I might have. So we'll cover that in another episode, most likely. If you don't see a future episode about that, then you know it just kind of went away on its own. So here's a look at our moss attaching to one of the marble chunks. It looks great, and if you look closely, you can even see the brown hairs that it uses to grab onto things. Overall, the moss is alive, but it's growing in a vertical way, and I really need to flatten it out and get it to spread in a more horizontal fashion. I want to cover the soil element and create a dense mat of moss that I can pick up like carpet. Like growing it like this, I'm going to have to come through with scissors and like take cuttings like I'm trimming grass or something. And that's not really what I want. I don't think it'll work as well. Might be an interesting video, sprinkling a bunch of moss into a jar. That'd be fun. Here we have some of our spike rush. It has become invasive in here. It's expanding and taking over. Eventually we'll have a spike rush moss hybrid terrarium, and I'm fine with that. It might even be the best partnership of plants that we could imagine. But looking right here, we'll see a couple spike rush plants, these little nodes up here. You can barely see it at the tip of my knife, yeah. And that is a complete spike rush plant. One of those green string-like leaves has reached up, and it's grown another clone of itself, a node. And that node can grow roots and leaves itself, and then it can also grow even more nodes in the future. It seems to grow straight up into the air because, again, it's so humid in here. But eventually that will fall over and reach into another, area of soil or water that it can grow in. Spike rush is really cool. I know I've been talking about it lately. You guys are probably sick of it, but I love that stuff. And here's a great look at some more of the moss. And I built a little central pillar of marble here as well, and the moss has seems to enjoy that. But overall, these two projects have done well. Yeah, our moss is growing, though not in the way that I would prefer. And we do have a slight fungus issue in a few of these projects. That is unfortunate. We'll take fungal elimination to the next step in another video. We'll most likely be introducing a ton of springtails, maybe some isopods, and some other things that can live in a project like that. Yeah, I'm investigating different ideas. Thank you, Patreon supporters and YouTube members. You guys are mostly the same people, and I think that's really cool. Thank you so much. I have big plans for things I want to do in the future. I think I kind of jumped the gun on the t-shirt thing, but yeah, don't fret, one day. But for now, I have another idea that we're going to run with and some different things that we can do just to get more awareness out there in the channel and maybe get you guys some kind of little swag items you can wear, you know. Here's a look at my next upcoming video. We have 4 new jar aquariums where I am testing Wedelia alligator weed and our mysterious red stem plant that you've seen on the channel a little bit lately. I'm comparing them all, and my theory is that the alligator weed and the Wedelia will both grow to resemble the other mysterious plant. It sounds crazy, but I've just seen it happen, playing with these plants in our jar aquariums, and I think it'll be an interesting topic to cover. So I'll see you then. Thank you for watching.